In this video, I plan to confirm or convert your fanboyism or fangirlism. So if you're an Apple fanboy or a Ryzen or Intel fanboy, I hope to either confirm your notions or completely convert you. So right now, as we're getting started in this video, comment below and let me know if you're an Apple fanboy or you're a Ryzen or Intel fanboy or a fangirl. And by the end of this video, I want you to comment again and let me know if you're confirmed or converted. I don't want you to buy the wrong laptop, so I'm glad you're here watching this video before you make your purchase, because I'm going to go through the reasons to choose Intel, Ryzen, or Apple. Let's jump in. First and foremost, the reason to choose a laptop based on the operating system. So that's going to be Windows versus Mac OS. Now, the first question is, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer Mac OS? Do you prefer a simple, streamlined operating system with limited functionality or customization? Or do you prefer Windows with more customization and more functionality? It's like kind of saying Android versus Apple, the phones. A lot of people love Android phones because they're highly customizable. However, they're not as user-friendly from a general consumer standpoint, and so a lot more people have now chosen Apple because they're a simpler phone. However, if you're more techie, you're more of a hacker at heart, then you may be in fact choosing an Android. That's the same kind of thing as Windows versus Apple. Now, the next thing to consider though is which OS operating system has the apps that you need to use. Let's say, for instance, you're a creative professional, that's who this channel talks to, and you want to use Autodesk 3ds Max or Autodesk Revit or some preferable software that only comes on the x86 platform, Windows. Now, the thing that you have to realize is that Apple could run that program through maybe an emulation on Rosetta, or it could run it through Parallels, but it's not going to run it as efficiently. It's not going to run it as high of performance as it will on its native x86 language. So keep in mind, if your operating system does not have apps that are built for the operating system, it might run slower. So if you're a Mac user, make sure you do your research. Make sure you find out, hey, this software I want to use, can I run it on a Mac? Or will I have to use Parallels? Or will I have to use maybe the Rosetta emulation, since the new M1 software, since the new M1 chips don't run every single app that's out there natively? These are questions you ought to ask, where a lot of the Windows laptops run everything natively. But then again, there's a lot of Windows laptops that can't run Mac-only software. So do your research before pulling the trigger. The software that you want to use, is it native? That means it will run most efficiently and have the best performance. Now, the next thing to consider is the performance in general, or even the thermals of the laptop. And this is an area where Intel has shown some of the greatest performance. Did it make anybody mad? Anybody getting a little boiled that I said Intel has maybe the greatest performance? I would say that Intel is showing some of the greatest performance. With latest i7 12th gen and i9 12th gen series processors, they are really kicking the pants off of Ryzen and off of Apple. Now, the thing is, they have very cool thermal temperatures. They have very great performance. Let's go on to Ryzen. Why would you choose Ryzen? Now, Ryzen has a great performance as well, maybe not topping all the charts in regards to performance compared to Intel, but it's going to have extremely hot thermal temperatures. So the benefit of Intel is top performance, lower thermal temperatures. The benefit of Ryzen is good performance and hotter thermal temperatures. Then what would the benefit of Ryzen be? Well, we'll get to that in just a minute when we get into the next category. Now, Apple, on the other hand, Apple has great performance as well, but also has good, if not even better, thermal temperatures than Intel. However, we're not seeing as great a performance on pushing your computer to the max as we are seeing on Intel. So then the question is, why wouldn't you just go for Intel? Here's our next category, battery life. Now, battery life is somewhere where Intel is the absolute worst. Intel shows low battery life performance on many of the major tests, whether you're doing, productivity, you're doing streaming video, you're doing, Photoshop, photo editing work, or you're doing video editing. Intel historically continues to get the worst battery life. Whereas Ryzen, on the other hand, gets some of the best battery life. This here, the ThinkPad Z13, gets 16 hours of productivity battery life and 20 hours of streaming battery life. Some of the MacBook Pros get upwards of 20 hours of productivity and streaming battery life. So Apple, Mac OS and Ryzen inside of Windows are going to be your best bet for battery life. Intel is just pretty much rubbish at the moment. They're focusing a lot on performance. They're focusing on keeping them cool, the CPU's cool temperature-wise, but the battery life just falls by the wayside. Now, another thing to consider, this is probably the biggest reason that I might switch you from Windows fanboy or fangirl to Apple fanboy or fangirl, is the battery life performance. Okay. When you own a Windows product, either Intel or Ryzen, you will not be able to get full performance. You will not be able to get full performance out of that laptop if you are not plugged into the charger. When you pull the power cable out of your laptop, it is going to throttle your CPU, and your GPU will no longer be running at full performance. So what that means is, though you're getting great battery life, you do not have access to the full performance of your computer any longer. However, the latest M1 chips from Apple, as soon as you unplug your computer, you still have full performance, and you have great battery life, and you have cool thermal temperatures. Now, the biggest drawback to Apple, like I said, is there's less native softwares available for Apple, specifically with the M1 silicon. Silicon. Rant in the comment section below which one you think is right. You will have all the performance and all of the battery life on the M1 chips. And that is my biggest reason to choose Apple. My biggest reason to choose Windows is I kind of personally prefer the OS for a lot of things like video editing and creator tasks. I prefer that they're more budget-friendly units. If I want to get the same performance as, say, this Asus Zephyrus G15 in a Mac product, it's going to cost me around $3,600, where this is around $1,800 to maybe $2,100 tops. And so it's going to be more expensive to own an Apple product, and you may be limited with your apps that you can select. Overall, tell me, are you still the fanboy that you came into this video, or fangirl, or have you been converted? I'm curious, because I am neither an Apple fanboy or a Windows fanboy. I'm a fanboy of whatever product gives me the best performance for the task at hand. If this video has brought you some value, then ever so gently caress, massage that like button. If you don't want to miss out on the future uploads, then don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to support this channel, any of the links below any of my videos, if you click through them and make a purchase, I'll get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. And that's what keeps this channel alive. I'll see you here in the next one.